First, thank you so much to the agency. I really appreciate your work, and is very impressive how accurate those projections usually are. I know it's been difficult with the FAFSA simplification sort of being implemented and the challenges that came with that, and just again have utmost respect for the work that you're doing on behalf of our students and families. I did want to make comments about the governor's proposal and the concerns that I have there. We are obviously in a tough situation with the deficit that we're facing in the state grant, and we're going to need to make cuts. And when we look at the formula where we have tuition and fees, we have LME, we have assigned student responsibility, assigned family responsibility, and Pell, we can't do anything about Pell. We can, adjust those other items. And the governor is proposing adjusting everything except for tuition and fees. The biggest concern that I have there is, again, the removing those modifiers that we have for assigned family responsibility. I want to come back to that and just talk about the tuition and fees piece for a moment. We have a document here showing the Minnesota State Grant Program parameters over time. And there's like 2 years that really stood out to me. 2010, looking at tuition maximum at 2-year institutions and tuition maximum at 4-year institutions, and then jumping to where we are in 2024. So at our 2 years, the tuition has increased by nearly $800. When we look at our 4 years, it's over $6,000. So that's a huge increase, and that's a big part of what is driving this deficit that we have in the state grant, and part of my frustration with there not being any proposal to make adjustments there, but only looking at the assigned, sort of on the other end, the assigned student responsibility and family responsibility. The other thing I will just say, because we will get more into conversation about, University of Minnesota and Regents process, but our state grant is capped at that University of Minnesota tuition rate. The Regents are deciding what that tuition rate is. The increase was enormous, comparable to increases during the recession, despite the historic increases that we did make to base funding. So something for the committee to think about. And just to remember that we have a role to play here in how the state grant operates, and do we want to concede all that to Regents? Something for the committee to think about. Also, when when we have that cap at the 4-year amount, that also means there's more resources that are going to our private institutions. I feel like I've talked about this before, but just do have concerns about when we have money that is going to private institutions when we have not fully funded our public schools. I do think that we're gonna have to do a little bit of both. We need to have a balance here. And so we have to look at, the cost that we're willing to consider on the front end of the formula, and then how much responsibility we want, our students and our families to take. I just feel like the governor's proposal is a little lopsided here, and we'll come back to the modifiers where having everyone have that assigned family responsibility at 100% is very problematic to me. That takes away the different modifiers that we had for our independent students who have less family support, little to no support, and also for our student parents, right? So our students who have dependents. And, I just think that doesn't acknowledge the support systems that folks have, the extra barriers that our students have, childcare costs. I think there is a reason why we have had those different modifiers, and we can see how they have changed over time on the back of the document that I was also referencing. To jump up to all of them being at 100%, I think is really problematic and just not equitable. I don't feel good about the budget basically being balanced on the backs of students with the greatest need. I think we have to look at all the different components of the state grant formula And, you know, I do have a bill that would cap tuition and fees at the public two-year institution. That is one idea that I have. I think we should talk about all the ideas that we have here at the you know, in this committee. But I really think it's important to continue to have these modifiers depending on, you know, the situations that our students are in. Are they independent? Do they have kids? What are these extra barriers that they face in order to access higher education? I think we're really doing them a disservice to get rid of those modifiers completely. And I'm hopeful that we can continue to work together in this committee to come up with different ideas to actually look at all the different components of the state grant formula. But again, that is my concern, that the governor's proposal was silent on tuition and fees and was essentially punishing our students who are independents and our student parents.